Well, are we live?
I don't know.
We're not quite sure if we're live.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Are we live?
I'm alive.
People, are you out there?
Can you
I
hear
hope
us?
we're out there.
Can anybody out there hear us?
We have two glasses in front of us each.
Welcome
Cheers,
to
Chuck.
Hermit Woods. We ran out of memory on our intro, and it
Maybe
left
you
a
ran
little,
out of memory.
a little,
I still have
a little bit
left.
of a snafu. But I think we've got.
I think we're live. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're totally live.
Okay.
And if you can't hear us, Marika, let us know. I'll put the.
Yeah, I think
I'll put the comments
Marika
on.
couldn't join us, but she's at home or somewhere and dialed in to answer questions if those so happen. And Bob is at a all-important meeting in town here this evening, can't be with us. So you know what this means? He left the two of us with all this wine and all this technology
unchained
to do whatever we want.
It's trouble.
So you push the little button thing, and then you get reminded.
Yeah. Oh,
Let
yeah.
us know if you're there. Thank you all for being
Push
here.
the button here to like the show.
Is that what it is?
That's what he
There's
says.
something about a little bell too. That he talks about that.
Yeah, do the bell thing and the button thing.
Right.
And I guess we're going to rely on Marika here to tell us what's going on.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in if you are in fact there. Chuck and I are here at the winery, and we have 6 different wines that we're going to sample tonight, 2 at a time, or at least 1 at a time, with 2 glasses each. And this is for our club. Our spring club release just took place this weekend. Very excited about that. Got to catch up with a number of club members this weekend, which was great. Very excited about this package of wines. Some of you know these wines, probably all of you know these wines, but those that are in this package are a little different than what we've had before, because each vintage is a new opportunity to explore and to have fun.
Yes.
So that's what we do. And so each one of these is a little different. Although it's in the same packaging, it says Rosé or it says Petite Blue. There was a little bit of activity, a lot of activity actually behind the scenes on each one of these wines. So we'll describe to you some of that as we imbibe and talk about things that are going on in the world of wine.
How come we're not having a toast already? I mean,
I thought we already did that.
We didn't.
Here, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody out
Cheers,
there.
everyone.
Thanks for. I forgot to drink. I was pushing
Maybe that
buttons
was
or
the
something.
problem.
Yeah, that was it.
So this is our Rosé. And we have both the still version of the wine and we have the sparkling version of the wine, which is available both in bottle and in cans. And we'll drink the can sparkling version next.
Yeah.
They're actually different vintages out of the can and in the bottle.
I should know this, but did the can go in the club release or
It did not. A bottle went.
A bottle went.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, and this is always delicious. And I love the genesis story on this was that the day that I walked into the winery and said, "Ken, I've got good news and bad news." And the bad news was that the Dolgo crop had crashed.
That's right. It was 2015.
Yeah.
Crappy year for Dolgos.
And so
So we couldn't make crabapple wine. And lots of people we like crabapple wine.
Yeah.
We like the Dolgo.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the Dolgo.
No.
We had a quarter of what we normally get.
Yeah.
So back then I was hoping to make 500 gallons when we would normally make 2,000 gallons.
Right.
And no, not that much. No, that was about right. Yeah, that's what it was in 2015. But we only got enough Dolgos to make that one 500-gallon batch. And we're like, what are we going to do? We need a Rosé-like wine. And for years with this crabapple, the Dolgo crabapple wine that we make, which we've been making since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Before the winery even existed, we were making that wine. People used to call our crabapple wine a cranapple wine.
They did.
Oh, I really like this cranapple wine. And
Yeah.
we would correct them gently saying, actually, it's made out of crab apples.
Yes.
And so that is really where the inspiration came from and the need to have more rosé. We always need more rosé. So the goal was to somehow make a cranberry apple wine.
Right.
And that was pretty nervous, a little nerve-wracking there. because I couldn't just experiment like in a 5-gallon batch,
right,
and if it didn't work out, just dump it or drink it myself or whatever.
Yeah.
I had to produce because we needed it next year.
Right.
And so I experimented at a 550-gallon, a full Titan, the biggest tank we had.
Yeah.
Was going to be a new type of rosé wine made out of cranberries and apples.
Yeah.
And
but you've made a lot of cranberry stuff in the past.
I had not made that much actually of cranberries.
Like almost none.
Yeah, like zero.
Yeah. So
I made cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving once when I was 12, and my mom helped me through the whole thing.
And how did it turn out?
And since then, I don't remember, but I think it was pretty good. Had a lot of sugar and a lot of tanginess to it.
Yeah.
It was part of my, some of my favorite part of.
So, but this must have been sitting in your subconscious going, I just can't wait for the Dogos to crash, and I'm going to take cranberries.
No,
I'm going to take cider.
No, it was never there.
And that's it. It's cranberry.
I'm really glad it did, because I like this one a lot.
It's a Chuck Souther sweet cider blended with Massachusetts and cranberries, ground up and then co-fermented.
And I took a leap and threw in a whole bunch of Kingston black apples. Mm-hmm. So there was a third component to this, which I'm really glad that I did, because when we make our cranberry cider, it is just the cranberries and the sweet cider that are co-fermented. And no added sugar, it's 6% alcohol or 7% alcohol. And it's a hard cider, and it's really fun and easy drinking, crushable. So with the wine, I knew I was going to head into the 12% territory and wanted to make sure we had enough mid-palate richness. And sweet cider and cranberries, you had kind of the alcohol potential and the aromatic flavor part, but it could have been missing in the mid-palate.
Yeah.
So by getting a bunch of these Kingston blacks,
whole fruit,
chopped up, thrown in with the cranberries, then it really, it worked out. I think actually the first batch was one of the best batches that I ever made.
So it was meant to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe your thoughts about the subconscious making it happen there. We're right.
Well, and it led to a lot of neat things, because we hadn't had a big super tank of wine to market and sell. And Bob came up with this relationship with Stephen Hodecker, and we got his painting. We bought that painting, and he gave us the copyright to print labels. And
I think this is one of the better packages.
Well, I think it was an evolution in our process. I mean, I think the game of the visual presentation just really stepped up there with using the artwork and associating it with Lake Winnipesaukee and the local artists.
We were going to put it in a regular Bordeaux bottle.
Yeah.
And then we were at the EWE together when we were wandering around, and we went past Waterloo Container looking at all the bottles.
Yeah. And Bob saw
we
that.
saw this, and we're like,
right. It's like, wow.
Yeah. That would be really nice for the rosé.
For a rosé style of wine.
So that worked out really well.
Yeah.
And it's a great story and great benefit vehicle.
Sure.
So we use this to raise, especially now that it's become such a popular wine, we sell a lot of it. We raise a lot of money through the sales of this wine that we donate to a charity. The first one was the Lake Winnipesaukee Association.
Right.
Hence Winnipesaukee Rosé. But right now we're donating 10% of the profits to the Greater Meredith program.
Greater Meredith program, right.
That
Meredith is great.
benefits everybody around here and everybody that comes to this
it's great and
area.
getting greater.
It's getting greater all the time.
It
sounds like a Beatles song.
you have contributed.
Getting greater all the time. I shouldn't sing.
No. So every time in the club release, everybody has just made a donation to the Greater Meredith program, which does great projects here. And I think Bob is working on stuff for Meredith tonight at a town meeting. That's why he's not here. Yep. All a part of that process that Bob has been committed to having the winery be really engaged in making Meredith just this beautiful utopian place to come visit. And since we bought this building 10 years ago, Meredith has really, the downtown of Meredith has transformed.
I think so, a lot. I think that, our establishment and all the others have really flourished over the past decade. And really now we're getting, when we first were here, we used to sit here in the tasting room and there'd be 2 customers that came in the door. And you walk 1 block down the way and you look at the lake and it's packed with people.
Right.
And they're at
Right.
town docks and
Yeah.
they're on their boats and they're having a great time.
Right.
And we should probably look to see if they're commenting.
See if there's anybody commented. Yeah.
We're just talking away here and there's
nobody can hear us.
Main Street without Marika here to tell us about it.
Probably look to see if
Oh yeah, I can hear us there.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Did we get a reverb?
Yeah, so people are talking.
Oh,
Yeah, great.
that's good.
Oh, so Marika's put in a thing there. Yeah, Bob showed me how to see on here, but I don't see it.
Yeah,
okay.
with some button thing. That's
Yeah,
right.
Geraldine's watching.
So anyway,
Yeah, all right.
the sculpture walk, the do the loop, those were a couple of vehicles that Bob and others championed and put in place. And it's really helped people move off the lake up into town. And that, of course, gives the momentum for the town to have more shops and activity for people to do up here.
It's
And
revitalizing
now
Main
it's
Street.
it's all sorts of activity.
Yep.
And the beer garden across the way,
Beer gardens.
how about that?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
It's gonna be a fun summer.
It's going to be a crazy summer. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So, is there anything more we should
About
talk
the
about
rosé?
about the rosé that we should talk about? I mean, it is.
Well,
it's
if you would clear your glass, I can pour some that's
drink more of
bubbling.
it. Okay.
So this is out of the can, and it has a light sparkle. And Deb Lucky, and you were, when we saw the different versions, you're like
Yeah, I love
raising
the
your
fish.
hand to Bob and I, like, the fish, we got to go with the fish.
love
You know,
the
she had diagrams in the sky and all these different ideas for Winnipesaukee Rosé as a sparkling wine in a can. And obviously the fish won out. And it's just such a fun package.
Yeah, I think all of these cans ought to actually be in a museum somewhere of modern art. Maybe in a few hundred years we'll get there, because
That little sparkle really adds a great sort of palate cleansing aspect to the wine. So you get that same richness that's there, but it finishes with a much cleaner palate cleansing aspect to it.
It does.
So if you're eating something or having a conversation or very thirsty, this is easier to drink a lot of because of that little CO2 that's going on in there.
Yeah.
And in the future,
What?
we are going to be packaging this in bottles at even higher CO2 pressure with our friend
Charmant.
Brian at
Yes.
Flag Hill.
Yes.
So Flag Hill Winery, which is a great place, winery and distillery. Brian there is the head winemaker and distiller. He makes a fantastic rum, aged 6 years in barrels. It's just incredible. Great wines, a lot of them estate, grown the grapes right there. And Brian invested in what's called a Charmant tank. And there are 3 ways really to create, 4 ways to create bubbles in a wine. The oldest known format for doing it is called Petulance Naturale, or PetNat. And those are sort of coming back now. They're becoming more popular for people to engage with. And while the wine is fermenting, the yeast are eating up the sugars and creating alcohol and giving off carbon dioxide. And you wait till near the end of that process, and you take the wine and you put it in strong bottles and cap it. And the CO2 can't escape anywhere, and it carbonates the wine. All of the dead yeast, all the stuff is still in there. So it's a very natural, very unique way of creating carbonation. The traditional champagne method, really pioneered and refined in the Champagne region of France. You take a finished wine that had fermented and all of the sugars got converted into alcohol. And then you, excuse me, you take a little dosage of yeast and sugars into the bottle and then cap it.
Yep.
And the yeast that got added each through those sugars creating a specific
CO2.
amount of CO2, which
Right.
is a lot. 7 to 9 bars. So it's a bomb. And that sits there for a year, maybe 3 years or 5 years for the finest Grand Crus in Champagne. And then the dead yeast that's in there, you actually riddle it and migrate that dead yeast up into the neck of the bottle by inverting it.
Right.
And then chilling it down and disgorging it, just opening the cap up and shooting out a plug of dead yeast. And then you add a little bit of wine back in there and put the cap on with the wire.
The freezing, it keeps the wine in the bottle.
It chills it way down. It holds the carbonation in there.
That's right.
So when you disgorge it, more of the CO2
So that's
stays
like
in the
heating
liquid.
up a Coca-Cola to something hot and then opening it up and watching it all disappear. Yeah, right. CO2 is more soluble.
In Prosecco, in northern Italy, they grow these racy grapes that make this fantastic cuvee, the wine, and they want to get pressure in there of CO2, but they don't want to go through all that hassle of adding the yeast and the liquid and disgorging it and doing all this stuff.
Sounds like work to me.
So it's a lot of work, that other traditional method. So they said, you know what? Let's just build a big tank that has a lot of strength to it. And then we can take and either dosage in there the whole batch all at once and disgorge it off the bottom. Or we can just put finished product in there, crank CO2 into it and bubble the heck out of it and make great pressure.
Yep.
And then we'll bottle that.
Under pressure, right?
That Charmant tank is what Brian at Flag Hill invested in.
Yeah.
And he's opened that up to other wineries in the state to help us, other people who don't have the monies to invest in that expensive
It's very
tank.
expensive.
They'll take our finished product in a tank. We'll just bring it over there in the back of our escargot van and pump it into his Charmant tank. And then he'll go through and pressurize it and bottle it for us. So we'll end up with a bottle next year of Rosé, sparkling crabapple. Word have it, there isn't even going to be a sparkling strawberry.
Really?
I had to say that really quiet.
Yeah, don't share that with anybody.
We're not
No,
sharing.
You didn't hear it here first, or.
But anyway, that's a way of getting much higher carbonation. What we are, poor little hermits in Meredith, we have what's called a bright tank. They're used in breweries to lightly carbonate a beer, and we use that to lightly carbonate our wines.
Right.
And that's what we do.
To how many bar do we bring them up?
1 bar.
1 bar, yeah.
So Champagne, 7 to 9 bars.
Yeah.
Charmant's about 5 bars.
Yeah.
And Bright Tank's 1 bar. 1 bar is 15 psi. So
And which is really nice. I mean,
it's nice. It changes it for
it
sure.
does change
It's definitely a different format.
And, you know, this and the crabapple are just these great chameleon wines that are great with a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
They have that a little bit of tartness from the cranberries or the crabapple, and just absolutely all around great afternoon drinking cold
Drinking, yes.
on a hot
Yes.
summer day out in
Yes.
your boat or in the
Absolutely.
or breakfast, whatever you.
I really like Wild Blue for breakfast Yeah.
Get your blue.
because I get all of my antioxidants. I get a small amount of alcohol, but just a nice amount, you know, if you drink the whole bottle. And,
yeah, the antioxidants, right?
and it goes really well with granola. It's really fantastic. It's a great way to start.
It does sound like a good way. We had some questions.
We did.
Let's see. Oh, Greg Farley says you'll see us in the beer garden. Thanks, Greg. We'll see you there. We're looking forward to that for sure.
Bring some of your wines from your cellar, please,
Yes,
Greg.
Yes,
Thank
we'll
you.
help you. We'll help you with those poor old wines that you have.
You know, if
have in
we
your
could have
cellar.
done this like in our last episode with cellars, if we could have had, you know, like Greg show us around all of the bottles that he has in his cellar, that would have been special.
Travis, would you consider changing other rosés to that style of bottle, or what's the reason for keeping the bottles for the Strawberry Rhubarb and Heirloom Crabapple in the bottle that they're in? Which is a good question. I think tradition is we've just kept with the same thing because that's what it's identified as.
Sure,
right?
yeah. Part of it is, you know, it's a label. So Strawberry Rhubarb has our classic original long vertical label that won't fit on this, what's called a hawk bottle with these shoulders sweeping up. However, we're going through some branding
Yeah.
and new ideas. So there may be some changes, I suspect, in the next few years of our labeling.
Yeah.
To reflect that.
I
For
think
the carbonated products, you actually need to have a stronger bottle,
right,
to support that.
Right.
You know, and some of a champagne bottle that's done in a traditional method at 7 bars, you need to have a very thick, heavy bottle. Otherwise, it will explode.
we don't like exploding.
Yeah, we don't want exploding.
Yeah.
No. And you can't put it in a can.
Yeah.
If you put 5 bars in here, it looks like a little football.
Well,
You don't even know where the pull tab is.
that
It's
could-
sticking up like this, waiting to be touched, like a grenade.
Let's not do that. So
Let's drink one more rosé-like wine
Okay.
before we go into the dark side.
So yeah, if you're just joining us, this is our club release show. Those of you in the club,
That's what we're doing. Thank you, because I just joined us, so I wasn't sure.
I knew we needed some focusing, and accolades to Bob. I mean, all of the wines are described in this booklet, and it goes through. It talks about pairing notes and history and vintage notes.
Yes, because
and all
I
that
make these wines a little differently, so I try to write these up to give people some insights into what went into each particular bottle that you get.
and so it sort of tells the story of each one and what was going on. And then Bob's worked really hard, and he does in every one of these, to just write a sort of a mini novel. And if you're interested in how we got to this place where we don't use grapes, there's just a really fun story about what it was like to be us in this process. And there's a lot of really good pictures of all of the.
We don't know. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, we're still.
That's like
it's
scary.
not you because there's a little bit of a bald spot growing on there. That's all like 10, 12 years ago too. Yeah, so we don't know, but we know that's Ken.
That's me.
And
yes,
so some fun pictures for us anyway. Maybe they're not so much for everybody else, but every picture sort of captures a moment in our evolution,
right,
and how we got to this place where we don't have a problem with grapes. It's just that we've got so much to do with what we're working with, and being the thing that we are, that the grapes just aren't in the conversation.
Well, it is really true. I mean, if I lived in Burgundy, I probably wouldn't be making strawberry wine.
Yeah, right.
I'd be fermenting Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
And Chardonnay and other yummy grapes that grow really well there.
Yeah.
It's really, it's not that we don't like grape wine at all. We love grape wine.
Right. Right.
But we know we live in an area where we can't grow good grapes for wine in a sort of natural format. We tried that. I do that a little bit in my backyard. Nico's helping out quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyway, it's a great story in this book, and I believe he put it online as well.
It's on our website.
There's a digital version on our website.
You can link to it at hermitwoods.com.
So you can link to it there.
So what is it that we're into here? This is another rosé?
So this is another rosé-like wine. It's not a true rosé, and this is fascinating because I haven't had this in probably 2 or 3 months now since it was bottled, and each wine is like a little kid for those parents out there, and you raise a kid and you get to influence your kid and help foster good development. You do your best, and off it goes, and you see various things come out over time. You have no idea what those might be. All of a sudden, your daughter or your son does something that turns your head like, wow, I didn't know you would do something like that. And so wines are the same way. You craft them, you put them together, you foster them, and they go off in the world, they go off in a bottle, and then you get to revisit them, and you get to see how things are moving along. What I like about this vintage is it's got a much more complex mouthfeel than I've ever had in the past with the Strawberry Rhubarb. And it's fascinating. I'm not quite sure where that came from, but it has a different texture to it.
Yeah, so you've always started the strawberry ferment with this, since we went and saw Gideon Bierenstock using autochthonous yeast. In other words, just letting it go once it's in the fermenter, right? And that was been the big change in this.
And it's still my favorite thing about strawberries. There's yeast on strawberries
Yeah.
that want to eat sugars
Strawberries.
and make alcohol. It's
I like
fascinating.
this.
I mean, it is just, and they're strong. I had one batch of strawberries that came in, and a few of the strawberries were less than ideal. They were crushed. They were already brown. They were, and when you're working with 2,000 pounds of strawberries, it's not like you could look at every single strawberry. It would take weeks, and all of them would rot. So they go into the fermenter. And then you're worried about the bacteria that has developed on those bruised fruit and those compromised fruits. So you can use a mineral, sulfur, to help kill off that bacteria.
Right.
But I've always worried about the sulfur then killing off the yeast, and then I would have to go with a commercial strain of yeast. Because that's the way a lot of people do it. You either hit it with sulfur and then inoculate, or you spin the roulette and go with the wild bacteria and yeast that are there. But the yeast on the strawberries are so strong, so pent up, so locked in those little seed dimples all over the strawberry that they are ready to go. So I can hit it with 30 ppm of free SO2 and knock back the bacterial pressure. And within a few hours, the whole thing is just a party of fermentation going on. And so that's the way I do strawberries every time now. It's always based on the wild yeast that's on those strawberries. And it's what creates this aroma that sort of jumps out of the glass of strawberries. Because early on, I experimented with just straight commercial or going wild. And that is exactly right, Chuck. It's when we went to California and we got to meet Gideon Beanstalk up on the side of the Sierras. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know why you travel all the way from New Hampshire, Ken. I make it all right there in the vineyard.
I don't really do anything. I just throw the grapes in the bin, and all of a sudden there's bottles of wine in my backyard. I was like, wow, I want your winery.
That was great. I loved it. And the other thing from meeting with Gideon was the conversation about harvesting, because I was really struggling with how to harvest rose hips at the right time. Right, the wild rose hips, because they'll turn this beautiful red color, but they're still hard. They're not really ripe. And I would end up with a rose hip wine that was less aromatic and more acid rich, more racy. And I wanted to get that rose aromatic and rose components. And I just racked the rose hip mead this afternoon.
Oh
man.
Oh man.
That is going to be.
All the more reason to come to Meredith.
That will be a fun wine this summer for sure, if I don't take it all home.
So
this is the Strawberry Rhubarb from 2021.
So where is there a surprise in this for you? You said that you haven't had this for a while, and it's going to, everything that we do is a living thing and changes in the bottle, changes over time. We had a Petite Blue that was, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old last night that
with
we
a
opened.
Compromised cork.
With a cork that was just leaking. And I opened it up, and the first sip was, for me, was really good. And then I brought it over to Ken a few minutes later, and by the time I got to him, it had changed completely because it was really reactive to oxygen.
Well, maybe I should have had 4 margaritas, and it would have tasted better. Maybe that was
just 4.
I think maybe it was 5.
It's hard. I mean, measuring.
I know those little cups.
It's a teeny tiny little.
I know. At least there's salt. It makes you thirsty.
It's just like a half a bottle of margarita stuff.
So that's what, for this one, it's sort of this mouthfeel textural thing that's going on. I don't actually like it with the blend. I like it on its own.
Yeah, I would say
the rosé went really well.
Yeah, the rosé was spot on with the charcuterie, and this is like strawberry rhubarb heaven, right? I mean, it just lingers in your mouth. It has this really nice soft mouthfeel, great aromatics. It smells like what it tastes like. It has a
bigger grip back end too. And this was the first batch that I've ever made without destemming at all. Wow. So there was no destemming.
Oh, okay.
So all the green parts went in.
Yeah.
To this. All right. It was a chaotic time. It was a last minute ditch to get all the strawberries that we could get. Fortunately, we got them. And they were all ripening, and I didn't have any time to destem them. And in it went. And so it's got a bigger grippy back end from, I think, from the tannins in the green parts
in the
of the strawberries.
yeah.
It's interesting because I have a second batch of strawberry going right now, which was made from strawberries also harvested in 2021, but the green parts were chopped off and they were frozen. And I acquired those just 2 months ago from out west because we wanted to make more strawberry.
Do we sell out of this is that the problem?
Yeah, we sell out of this way too fast.
Yeah, get your strawberry rhubarb while the getting is good.
Will go. That's why I put it in the club release.
Oh, okay.
To make sure that the club members get at least
and drink it too.
This is not a saver.
Right.
This is not something.
I was talking with a customer here when I came to the winery to do the show, and she'd had a bottle that she kept for years and years and years of strawberry rhubarb, and when she opened it, it wasn't as good as what she remembered it was like. And it is not a wine that is meant to be aged in any way.
Absolutely. It'll lose that aromatic, that strawberry freshness.
Yep.
Whatever those molecules are, they go away.
Yeah.
It's timely. It's just, you gotta be there. Drink it. Get it. Chill it down a little bit.
And drink it.
Drink it.
It's like a Beaujolais. Think of it as a
Beaujolais.
And all of a sudden, okay, well that was.
All right, now let's go red.
Yeah, red. All right.
Now we're gonna go red. And this release is 3 rosés and 3 reds, and really fun collection for me. And one of the things that's really exciting here are the 2 blueberry wines, the Petite Blue and the Petite Blue Reserve, because 2020 was the best harvest year for wild blueberries since 2012. Very high sugar levels, very high intensity of flavor, just concentrated little berries. And that's what you want. You want all of that concentrated flavor. It's like growing Cabernet Sauvignon in very austere settings on the side of a mountain. And you get these little tiny grapes that are high sugar, high concentrated flavor, and then you crush them up and it makes this magically powerful red wine. So with blueberries, same thing. You want the right growing conditions, to concentrate all those flavors. Then you have the paint to paint with. And so this is the 2020 vintage of Petite Blue. I don't think you've had this yet. I'm not sure Bob has had it yet either. So it was just released and it's in the club. And it's the second vintage of 2020. I actually did 2 of them. It's a complicated year back then. And a little bit out of form, this spent a little bit of time in barrel. Normally when I make Petite Blue, that stays its whole life in stainless steel, and I'm trying to capture all that fresh, bright blueberry stuff. Right. So I'd still do that. It's an early pressing, an early runoff, but I had space problems in the winery this last year. Things were moving fast, stuff was going around, and I needed a place to park a tank full of Petite Blue for a little while, and I had some barrels. So this went into barrels for a little while, and then the tank finally freed back up and I could get them back out of barrel. So this has a little bit more of the barrel edgy character of like Petite Blue Reserve that we'll go to next, but it doesn't have the tannic grip background that was originally created through the fermentation process, Petite Blue Reserve. Yeah. So what do you think?
It's phenomenal. So to me, this is sort of the quintessential success of Hermit Wood's red wine. And at the foundation of it, an available, drinkable, crushable, chameleon red wine that has this great blueberry flavor and nice mouthfeel and a nice finish, but not overwhelming or overpowering in any way. It's just a really nice drinking red wine. I mean, it drinks like a nice red wine with a blueberry forward flavor. I'm so proud of all the iterations of
Well, you got to see the very first one, as did I.
Well, yeah.
When you spent all that time to pick all those blueberries, and you came to my front door and said, "Ken, make wine like we had the other night at Bob's," and I totally failed. I took those blueberries. I did the best I could. I'd never made a blueberry wine before. Well, I made something that was just dry, hollow.
Do you know how much we learned from that?
Well, we learned a bunch of things not to do.
Make that wine ever again.
It was like watching the show on Elon Musk developing rocket ships to launch things.
Yeah,
and he would just go at it this iterative way. Just keep building, keep trying stuff.
Minus
then keep blowing up. And then eventually it works. And it's great. It's a great process.
Yeah,
expensive.
You did mention the space problem, so Elon Musk is
nice
appropriate.
Nice parallel there.
Right.
Here we go.
No. So one of the things we learned from that is that my neighbor had a blueberry pick your own business,
high bush,
and they were high bush. So they're these really big, monstrous berries that were really delicious for eating in pies.
Right.
But like you said in the beginning, the wine is much better if it comes from more skin, smaller berries, more skin, more flavor. I mean, the flavor is coming not from that pulpy, meaty, sweet part, but from the skin.
From the skin.
And so the low bush berries really were a big game changer. And then there were some other issues. I mean, so in the beginning,
like not knowing what I'm doing.
Not knowing. Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is back to Elon Musk. So you tried 3 gallons of water, 4 gallons of water, 5 gallons of water to
I still have
2
those
pounds,
notes.
4 pounds, and
BB4, BB5, and BB6.
And so then you would make, because you never know what it's going to come out like in the end. And started there, and it's evolved into something that was, a little bit too watery, not enough mouthfeel, to kind of overbearing and not whatever it was. I don't know if we ever really got there with Petite Blue, and that processing has evolved over 10 years to get to the booster rocket that will land itself on a platform, right?
I actually feel like I know how to land a rocket, the first stage, back on the platform again.
Yeah.
It's really,
right. Sure.
I really am very excited about blueberries and my progression in working with them and fermenting them, because it has been a very rocky road. There've been a lot of stuff falling off the side, me scratching my head, going back to the drawing board and throwing something else away. But now, and even knowing I just made the 2021 vintage of Petite Blue. I know it's 2022, but things don't always happen at exactly the same season. So a month ago, we executed the 2021 vintage, and it's underway. We're racking the Petite Blue tomorrow. And it was a whole new way of doing it. And I think it's, I wish I knew how to do that when I made these, but each vintage, there's a new, perspective and understanding of where you've been. It's like anything you do. It's like,
so aren't you happy that you didn't grow up in a small winery family in Burgundy? Because when would you have these experiences? I mean, their whole thing is to get out of the way.
I have a bunch of ideas of what to do with Pinot that I think the French could learn from, and I want to go to Burgundy and talk about
viewers
how to
in
make
France
Pinot.
right now. Look out, because Ken's coming your way. He's going to turn everything upside down.
I have some ideas actually from working with fruit, from challenging little berries to make wine that I think would really work well with grapes.
We might have a grape wine. So.
I need to do a collab or a process where I go to France for a little while, or Italy or something, and work with winemakers there and, push some new ideas and concepts.
So
some good comments?
Greg wants to watch that. So if our viewership here, we've got 10 people on at the moment. If you think Ken should go to France and mix things up over there, just make a comment so that we'll start a GoFundMe campaign and send.
Yes,
Ken
please. I do want to go to France. I haven't been to Burgundy. I went to France
You've
as a
never
little
been to
kid.
Burgundy?
I went to France as a little kid. I was 12 years old. We went to Paris, and I had langue de boeuf.
Langue de boeuf.
In this restaurant with people.
You remember
speaking.
that?
I do remember that. It burned into my memory cells, and and that's it. But I wasn't there. I went back when I was
You're cycling.
18 on my bicycle,
Yeah.
and I went through Alsace region.
Oh, well.
And
I think you could show them a thing or two, right?
well, I loved riding those roads. It was a beautiful area.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And the little courtyard that Joey and I stumbled into and drinking this Meteor beer, which was okay beer, but the ambiance and the setting were just so memorable. It was so fantastic. But even then, I didn't care a hoot about wine. It was all about beer.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot more fun when I got into Switzerland and Germany for the beers than I had in Alsace. I should have been drinking white wine or something. So that's the regular Petite Blue, and here's the Petite Blue Reserve.
All right, wait a minute. You're ahead of me. So Petite Blue, a go-to, everyday drinker, delicious, great drinking. Beaujolais.
I love this vintage. Beaujolais type
Beaujolais.
wine. It's a Nouveau Beaujolais type wine.
It pairs with any sort of light red winey thing, salmon,
with the cheese, it's
cheese,
fantastic.
charcuterie, more cheese probably than charcuterie, but it's just an all-around, just a delicious, easy drinking fruit forward dish.
This is, when I took this to Stoneface the other day, we're involved in this really cool collab with Stoneface Brewery. I'm so excited about it. You're the first to really hear about it, people out there. We're swapping barrels. So some of our wine barrels are going to Stoneface.
So
some of Stoneface barrels are coming here. No,
you say we're making beer?
No, I didn't say that. I said I got really excited about the swapping of barrels. Beer is in the future.
What are you going to put in a beer barrel?
I put wine in the beer barrel.
I
put this wine in the beer barrel.
Oh,
and I brought this wine to Pete and Doug, I think it was Doug, sorry, the owners of Stoneface, along with their head brewer, Dan. And Dan was all jazzed up about our wine that we were making here and why he wanted our barrels to put his beer in, because he was really excited about the wine. And the owners said, okay, Dan, you're the head brewer, bring in this person that's making fruit wine. And so we opened up a bottle of Petite Blue Reserve and poured some. And Pete, who created the beer, the New England IPA that they make at Stoneface, he did that as a homebrew competition. And he drank this wine. He's like, Dan, you're absolutely right. This is awesome stuff. And it's really cool. And we sampled one of their barrels that they had an Imperial Stout in. And it was a whiskey barrel. They put their Imperial Stout in. They told us how they made their Imperial Stout. They have a 15-barrel brew system, and they brewed like 10 barrels because they had to use so much grain. The mash tun couldn't handle it. And then they boiled it for 16 hours to evaporate the water to bring the sugar levels up to 26 bricks. So they're making a liquid grape.
That's a wine.
Barley.
Yeah, they are.
And then they're
making a grape.
And it's just awesome stuff. So anyway, they pushed that Imperial Stout out of barrels, and those barrels came to our place, and we pumped in the next vintage of Petite Blue Reserve into those barrels. And a year from now, going to be something new and special.
Wow, I can't wait. But I can say that, so comparing the two,
Totally different, right?
totally different.
Isn't that interesting?
This jumps up a whole genre of wine character, right? It's got this really great nose. It's not tremendously blueberry-ish. It's more wine-ish.
More vinous or whatever wine word is.
It doesn't. I mean, wine doesn't smell like grapes, but it smells like wine, right? So
it smells like blueberries or blackberries,
or
yes.
Strawberries. Depends on which sommelier you are. But this just has this great wine, and then it drinks like. And I'm kind of lacking for this style because it's its own thing. It's really not a French wine. It doesn't, it's not fitting into Côte d'Aron. It doesn't have that Grenache thing. It doesn't have the Beaujolais. It's more closely aligned with the Pinot, I think, actually. I think it's more Burgundian than the Petite Blue in this batch. And
there's a grippy back end, which I'm really excited about, because that's always a struggle. A little Cabernet grape's got great tannins. Just, gives that that meaty bite, that dry, austere finish that just pulls you back for another sip, or marries beautifully with the fats from a steak or from cheese. But these little blueberries don't have a lot of that. And I'm not about to buy tannin powder from grapes and sprinkle it in. I don't want to do that. So the technique that was used to craft this, to create those tannins, I'm really excited about, because it's got grip.
Yeah.
It's finally got grip. It's just so hard to get that to happen.
What is it that makes this, besides the barrel aging, what did you do to manipulate it to get to this place?
That's a trade secret. I can't tell you.
Oh, okay. So Greg Farley says, what did he say? Dr. Hardcastle, if you don't know this, Ken is a doctor. Yeah.
Not a chance.
Yeah, no, Greg said this. So, I mean, he
grew up,
TED Talk.
He grew up next to me on Septo Street in Northridge, California, back in the 60s and 70s. And my father was a chemistry professor. And Greg and his brother's a doctor. And everybody called my dad Dr. Hardcastle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to get my PhD. And so now Greg and you and others call me Dr. Hardcastle. And I'm still looking for my dad every time you say that.
No. He's probably with us. He's always with us.
He's always with us.
Ken's dad.
For sure, he's always with us.
And I'm sure all of those who knew him love him dearly. Let's see.
I love the way that vintage came out.
A TED Talk on how to properly use your Pinot grapes, and then drop it on them about frozen fruit.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. That's one of the key techniques. And they do a lot of like cold soaking of, especially Pinot Noir, because it's a thin-skinned grape. So it doesn't have the same potential as a Cabernet does for making rich color and good grip. Pinot's kind of like the ultimate challenging grape to work with. It is like the highest level. If you make a well-crafted wine out of Pinot Noir, you really know your stuff. And a lot of it, like Gideon said, is all about how you grow it.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. And he spent 30 years learning how to grow Pinot Noir. And when we showed up, he's like, Ken, what can I tell you about? You make your stuff in a winery from fruit that comes from here or there, and I make my wine right here in the field.
Well, you could have told him a thing or two.
No.
Well, Gideon, you've got to freeze your fruit first.
Well, the freezing is very important.
Yeah.
Even when I pick the rose hips, I still freeze them. After I let them ripen to perfect ripeness, and destem all those things, my fingers are green and I have pinholes of spiky things through them. My fingers are split and dried.
And they just kind of
for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I've been telling Noah about this. He's like, I know you mentioned this, but it's really fascinating to go through this process. And Greg, I would love to go do that. I think to make it accessible to the French and everybody else, it needs to be done in a way that's acceptable. It would be easy to just say, I could be very French about it, do it like this. But I think it would be much better to really excite people with the products and then working side by side with a batch of the grapes. So if I could ever have the chance to go to some place in Burgundy and they bring in their grapes and they say, okay, you, Mr. Fruit Winemaker, you can have this little, 20 kilos of grapes. Do your thing.
6 carboys.
So I'll just take those 20 kilos and I'll do my thing. And then, a year from then or 2 years from then, we'll pull out the wine. And hopefully it's like, okay, well, that's good. But it's a learning process too. I mean, the first time making blueberry wine, I suck at it.
You have made a lot of grape wine.
And I have made a lot of grape wine.
Right. So that is actually where we started.
It is.
So anyway, the Petite Blue Reserve, tasting notes, ideas, pairings. I mean, it is a really nice just red wine that would go with anything that you drink a red wine with.
I think the Petite Blue Reserve in this release package has got a really great back end grip to it.
Right.
So it's the one that will cut up into the wines that you would take a Merlot with or something like that. A bigger
I agree.
food pairing, a richer food pairing. And I think it would go really well with that.
Oh, Bob's on.
Bob's on.
Yeah, he's watching. He's
in the
smiling.
middle of-
He's smiling, but his head got a red face.
He may be worrying.
Said, "We've only got 8 minutes and a whole wine to
you
go."
cut us loose.
Cheers, Bob.
Cheers, Bob. Hope
we're
it's going
having
well
more-
over there.
Yes.
Yes. We started off with 2 glasses each.
Yeah.
That's how we got this going. So
where are we now?
So this is a whole new realm. And this wine, this is our Lake House Red. So this is the 2019 vintage of Lake House Red. And this is a wine that, quite frankly, I'm still working on. It is a very complex wine. It's a blend of 4 different berries. And I've pushed different ratios. I've pushed different variations from red raspberries to black raspberries. I've pushed 6 or 8 different yeasts through it, different techniques with freeze thaw, with temperatures. And I still don't have my head around it yet. Each vintage is better. Really excited about how this is really evolving and coming along and wanted to share it with everybody. But the Petite Blues, I got that down. I feel really confident about how to do that and make that and push it a little bit. Lake House Red is still this wild Pinot. It's just bucking and going all over the place, and I'm still trying to corral it and get it into something that I feel comfortable with. When I do something, I know what the results are going to be like. And so far, it's still wild. And I like it. This is, a more complex wine than either the Petite Blue or the Petite Blue Reserve, in my opinion. I think it would pair well because of the sort of bright acid character to it with a pork loin or a pork-based thing that seems to go well with acidity. You use applesauce or something with your pork chops. So something that cuts that tang. But it's
because it has that red fruit.
Very bright red fruit.
Red fruit
raspberry
component.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the mid palate and the body that even the Petite Blue Reserve has, but it has this much more red fruit character. So it's lighter in body, but it still finishes with the tannins that are appropriate to the.
It does. Fruit. It is much lighter body.
Yeah.
And I've never had it side by side like this, but it does. It's thinner.
Yeah. And
I actually pack it a lot heavier with fruit. So this is like 6 pounds per gallon or something, and this is closer to 7.5 pounds per gallon.
Yeah, but it's the different.
It's different fruits. Yeah.
But it has that nice tannin. You captured that somehow in the end, in the after
The
palate.
back end's got a nice grip to it. Yeah.
And again, our wines don't really compare. We're not trying to make European style wines. We're trying to make wines that are made in the style of that. So all of our wines are unique in that way, and this is unique in that character.
And this is more like some Côte de Rhônes I get. This is more like that without
that Grenache thing though. It's got a little bit. It's a little more grippy to me than Côte de Rhône. But it's not Provençal, and there's no like Band-Aid or Barnyard or any of that sort of stuff. It's very fresh.
I would love to do that, but I need a whole nother barrel room.
Yeah,
because
I don't think we want to do that.
I definitely want to do that.
No, well,
yes.
Okay, all right. Well,
yes,
you're gonna
I need to do that because it's just so lovely.
Maybe you can play with that when you're in France.
Well, I just need to I think I need to buy like a barrel conveyor or some system where we have a little separate building for our experimental wild yeast ferments. It's really pulling hard on me these days because I'm like, okay, there we go, Petite Blue Reserve. But Petite Blue Reserve with Brett?
Oh, you might be onto something there.
It would be a whole new thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it would just take it into that.
You might have seen the genesis of a whole nother direction here.
It's where we need to go. So in old world wines and some new world wines, of course, but classically in old world wines, they've used their barrels for so long. They've worked in their caves, in their chateaus for so many decades that invariably they get infected by a number of different organisms, one of which is a type of yeast called Brettanomyces. And Brettanomyces will go after the wine after the alcoholic transformations have taken place. So after Saccharomyces has created alcohol from sugar, Brettanomyces gets in there and starts eating up other stuff and creating funk. And the funk is described as Band-Aids and barnyard, and
earthy,
horse sweat, and a lot of things. I mean, we get a wine from Provence or something. I open it up and my wife will pour some in a glass. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna like this, but I'm not gonna drink that."
Yes,
and I smell Band-Aids, and I'm like, "Woo, okay, here we go. Just bring that whole bottle over, and we're there."
There's a limit to Band-Aids for me, honestly.
And I agree. And it needs to be well integrated. It can't be just, manure. You're just smelling manure while you're drinking. It's not good. But if it's well integrated, it's really complex, really earthy, really unique. The problem is if you have Brettanomyces in a winery, a wine production area, it infects everything.
Yeah, so everything.
We would get Brettanomyces in Rosé. We'd get Brettanomyces in Cranberry Cider. It would be horrific. It would be a terrible situation.
That would not be good.
I spend every day worrying about getting Brett anywhere in here and try to make sure that it doesn't happen. But I would love to be able to take some barrels of Petite Blue or Lake House Red or Hermitage and introduce some Brettanomyces, but I need to do it in a separate facility, separate place. At Stoneface, they have their sour barrels that have Pediococcus and Brettanomyces and a whole bunch of other weird, funky bacteria and things, and it's in a separate room. And they have a separate bottling machine, they have a separate pump, they have separate hoses, because no matter how much sterilant you run through there,
have to wear a decontamination spacesuit and then get sprayed down and all that sort of stuff like in the movies.
It's almost like that.
Yeah, because you don't, once it's in, I mean, these things are like teeny tiny.
I mean, I lost layers of skin because I had to strip naked and they just blasted me with hot water to let me into the barrel room.
Yeah,
it was like, really, guys?
Yeah, no,
but that's what I had to do.
Well, I've heard
that's what you have to give it up.
So we're getting to our time, or this is our time.
Wow, really?
But I know you talk and talk and talk.
I know. So I just do that so that you don't talk and talk and talk. Because I know you will talk and talk and talk. So
we get into
I make sure I keep that going.
Yeah, the existentialist conversation about the anatomy of
the brain.
Wine. And then anatomy of the brain too. Yeah.
Right.
So and that would not be interesting and off topic. But Nancy says Petite Blue was our intro to Hermit Woods almost a decade ago. It's crazy to say a decade ago.
It is mind blowing for me.
I was talking to customers earlier. It's really pretty astonishing.
Thank you, Nancy.
And our love has only grown, and now we are huge fans of so many Hermit Woods wines. And thank you for being the amazing vintners that you are, and giving us the opportunity to learn and appreciate the various complexities of non-grape wines. Keep up the great work, Ken and crew.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that, man. Because that sort of encapsulates what actually this whole process has been. It's just been an evolution.
And it's ongoing. And as I learn a little bit more, I know how much more I don't know. It's really...
isn't that life, right?
That is life.
So the thing is that you can learn more and more and more, and then you learn that there's more and more and more to learn. It's the well is never emptied about this. Yeah. Nancy also asks about Boathouse Blue, Ken.
So we had a wine called Boathouse Blue for a while, and this was made alongside of Petite Blue.
Yeah,
and great name, really. Stranger danger!
Uh-oh.
Oh, you made it!
You guys drinking without me?
little cameo. Little cameo. We got Bob showing up. All right.
Wow, Bob's back from doing the business.
Success. Look at him. He's can't
He's
wait
happy.
to get a
Yeah.
glass going here.
Yeah, he's been in front of an audience putting on
There
greater
you go.
things for
I
the
don't
Great
think you've
American
had this
Program.
Petite Blue yet, but
I don't think I have.
no, this is the new Petite Blue. I've never made one like this before. We've had
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Hey, Bob.
I
Welcome,
made it.
welcome, welcome.
You made it.
Welcome to your show.
Awesome.
You guys are doing a great job.
we adulterated it a bit.
I was watching,
tonight.
yeah, I know.
we were having
How many
fun.
wines? 3 wines you've been through?
Yeah,
No,
6.
no,
Six?
this is it.
Yeah,
We
six.
actually
you
got
did
them
it.
all.
And we definitely didn't
No.
drink beforehand.
Marika kept us on track. She said, she said we're on track anyway. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I was untethered. There was nobody keeping track of me today
I know.
at all. It
Yeah.
was really quite fun.
Chuck didn't keep
Because-
track of you?
No, he tried
No,
to.
no,
he was
I
holding
did.
up his hand, and I just ignored him a little bit.
I think,
you know?
I think we did pretty good, man, because it's quitting time now.
Well, we
welcome,
did
Bob.
we did work through all the wines, and we did talk
cheers.
about the wines and what went into those, and all that sort of stuff. And
Let's see.
So-
So you're going to tell Nancy about Boathouse Blue.
Yeah.
sorry, thank you. I got interrupted there. So back in 2015, 2014, we had our Petite Blue, and I was exploring what blueberries might do with barrel aging, and that was named Boathouse Blue. Great name, really was a nice product, and it was like our Petite Blue Reserve, a drier, bigger, more robust, straight varietal 100% blueberry wine. And at some point, I'm not quite sure why, we decided to rename it Petite Blue Reserve. And
Really?
it
Is that
was-
what happened
I
to
don't
it?
think so. It didn't. It wasn't that sequence. It went away because we felt like we had that category covered, and you brought Petite Blue Reserve back as a way to make Petite Blue better. And we didn't want to resurrect another wine, an old wine. We sort of let that lie.
Wait, are you saying that we had Petite Blue Reserve while we had Boathouse Blue?
No.
No.
I'm saying that the gap between Boathouse Blue and Petite Blue was a few years. And so rather than bring Boathouse Blue back, I think you actually decided to leave Boathouse Blue alone because you might want to bring it back as something else. We still talk about.
Oh, I like this. Bourbon barrel
There's a little bit of-
aged wine could come back as Boathouse Blue.
Well, I do have a wine that never sees a label called Blue. And that came from meeting, what's his name, in Napa.
Well, we don't actually have a wine named Blue. We have an idea of a wine named Blue.
No, I have a wine named Blue that I make every year.
Right. But we
I
don't
make
put it in
Blue every year.
bottles, so-
It goes into Hermitage.
Sure. But so like Chuck would say, Blue could become Boathouse Blue if you wanted to bring it.
Yeah, so
that's really the.
hold on to your boots, Nancy. We're working on this. You're looking at the brain trust right now, working on all cylinders. It may be a thing.
I
It was a
gotta
long
get some of
time
those
ago.
big.
That was a long, and it
casks.
wasn't very long that Boathouse Blue existed.
No, it was like a year or two that you
I
had.
only think I had a year,
Maybe a year.
1 or 2 vintages
Yeah.
of Boathouse Blue. And then, then I don't know why we didn't call it Boathouse Blue instead of Petite Blue Reserve.
Because I think both Petite Blue evolved into Reserve. And so you wanted to stay true to Petite Blue. So you wanted to put the Reserve on it because it really was Petite Blue
Yeah.
as an evolution of Petite Blue.
Okay.
So
That makes
we
sense.
did.
So
you-
there's techniques there.
Yeah, you just enhanced Petite Blue. So you said, this is the best Petite Blue we've ever made. Let's call it out.
Reserve.
And we'll call it Reserve
Okay.
rather than rename and bring back another label and another bottle. That's how I remember it.
Okay. That could be.
I did also catch wind that we're building another barrel room in another part of town with a barrel conveyor.
Well,
I was worried
yeah.
about the webpage budget, but maybe I don't.
no, we're doing that first. We have to do that
have the
first.
website.
You're that's
We're
solid.
saying
Don't
it
worry
right
about
now.
That
After
definitely needs to
hours,
happen.
you're in the after hours show now.
That
Actually,
needs to
so
happen.
we're 6 minutes over time.
Oh,
This is the after hours show. So you're getting the actual
your glass is empty. What would you like?
the all of
What do
them.
you? All of them at once?
Yeah.
This
Do you
is
want to?
really
You want
nice.
to blend?
I'm going to
It's a
go with the
Lake House
Lake House Red.
Red.
Yeah.
No, that's Petite Blue.
No.
That's regular
Regular.
Petite Blue.
What? It's
what
so
I'm telling
good.
you.
That's the problem. So
It's way different. It's way unique. I had space issues you may not have heard about, but that's regular Petite
It was
Blue.
more like
For those of you
What issues?
who are actually watching the show, what we've talked about tonight is our club release. We've been through all of the wines and we've talked about them.
Look at you, you're so good at
And
just pulling this
all
back
of the
together.
details for our club members are written with all of the descriptions on here. We just talked about, waxed poetic about the things that we experienced with drinking them here in front of you. And if you want a copy of the club release, if you're not a club member, we've got a ton of them.
The stories
And the
online
stories,
too.
it's a really
Oh,
fun,
right.
it's a
And
fun
if you didn't
book.
mention the story, if
He
you
did.
really want
We
to
went
know,
on quite a bit about it.
want to
Yeah.
know why we're not using grapes.
Yeah, oh yeah,
No, we pushed it out there because it's such a great write-up.
We
It's
dug
really
into
awesome.
that. So I encourage anybody to come and just ask for one of these, and we have a ton extra, right?
I haven't seen you guys, and I'm going to just make a public announcement to you because I haven't told you, but we were just interviewed by Som Magazine.
What?
Yeah, they want to do a story on why we are not using grapes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Greg Farley said we should
Yeah.
go on a TED Talk
Absolutely.
and should go to Burgundy. And
I just
Tell them
thought
how
it
to
was
work
really
with Pinot
interesting
Noir.
timing that we get this.
it's
national
great.
media
Exactly as
outlet
you just put out something.
calling, and I said, "Oh, I just happen to have something that I can just put right into your hands and tell you the whole story." Of course, I did answer their questions, but
Yeah.
but I was able to send that
Oh, that's
information.
perfect.
It was Som TV magazine.
Som TV, yeah.
Som
Yeah,
TV. There's a Som
we talked
TV.
about that.
Well, what would you like?
I want some.
You know what I'm doing? I'm blending.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing.
Oh, no,
I'm
whatever
doing the
you're
Making
new.
Boathouse Blue.
He's making.
No, I'm
Nancy,
doing-
we're
I'm
making
doing-
Boathouse Blue for blue.
I'm doing
Yeah.
a little bit of Petite Blue with a little bit of Lake House Red to see if I shouldn't up the
Make
blueberry,
Boathouse Blue.
the blueberry component of the Lake House Red.
Yeah.
This
So
is
There's-
an ongoing process. This,
It
the
is
evolution
it
of
is
our wines
nonstop.
will continue to evolve for decades to come, as it should, because quite frankly,
What are you
grape
doing,
wines have
PBR?
been-
Do PBR with a little Lake House Red.
grape wines
don't
have
try
been
this at home.
evolving
We are
for-
trained professionals.
Oh boy.
It's too bad we didn't start with gin.
I know that would have been.
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah.
I didn't
That would-
say
that
that.
would-
Well, no,
excellent.
but you wouldn't do that because you know
No, I
that it's
wouldn't do
not
that.
appropriate.
Yeah, of course not.
That's weird.
So I think we are really. I don't have any creative juices are flowing. Yeah, that's right. But you're actually getting a glimpse into why this place is here in the first place, because we met mountain biking, sitting on the back of Bob's pickup truck,
And there was no
we-
alcohol involved because that
Drinking
would
beer.
never get juices flowing.
drinking beer and just talking about life, the universe, and everything. And we have a creative energy that the parts come together.
Keeps talking about the same thing over and over again.
We've solved the same problem like a million trillion times. But the good news is we forget that we talked about it, and we talk about it all
You know
over
what's really great about that process, Chuck, is we actually are influenced by our conversations, and
Yeah.
it is manifest in how we do things.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree.
The room we're standing in, the wines we're drinking, the conversations we're having are the product of everything that happened before us. And they wouldn't
Right.
be here unless we did what we did.
Every detail was important, right? Yeah,
And
I
what
agree.
we're doing now is, heralds and pushes forward what's coming next.
Right. But look at this. I mean, in 12 years, so you want to go to Burgundy and try making wine over there, which I think is a great idea. But if somebody came here from Burgundy, I would be honored to bring these wines to them and say, look what we can do here. That's not scripted by all of the rules and regulations that it is to make a Burgundy out of something that nobody has told us we could do this like this.
I do. I love that validation of the process.
We have
when
had people here from Burgundy.
when
Yeah.
when
Right.
Andrea comes from Treviso, Italy, and okay, Ken, you make wine. Oh, you make wine out of fruit. Pff, okay, great.
Yeah.
And then I pour him a little Red Scare or something. He's like, "Wow, this is really good." that's great. I love it. It's just
it's brilliant.
awesome.
Yeah, and then on top of that, so if you're watching from Burgundy right now, and you're whatever for doesn't you're watching, it's late at night there. First off, and you come here, you're coming to Meredith, where we now have a WOW trail. You can ride your bike on the old railroad track. We've got a really nice downtown, a great lake, waterfront,
Yeah, beer garden.
sculptures, beer gardens. I mean, this is a life experience that you can have nowhere else on earth. Come to Meredith.
And on that note,
Bob says enough is enough.
since we're 10 minutes over.
Yeah, we are way over.
So
Thank you all.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
could show up for the last 5 minutes. Sorry, I missed that early part, but I'm sure Chuck and Ken
We
did a
had
great
fun.
job. Yeah, no doubt. I look forward to watching the episode later. So thanks for joining us.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you all. Don't forget to push the little buttony thing. Look at that.